Hello, and welcome to the 23rd episode of the 10th Divine Podcast. This is a show about the Elder Scrolls Online, and I am your host, Shanty, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Raven. How are you doing this week?
This working for a living lark is really shit. Shouldn't be allowed. Having jobs is just really tedious. But I was just learning how to use the Foundry virtual tabletop for some Dungeons and Dragons stuff that will be coming to the Girls Go One community quite soon now. So that's an exciting thing.
Ooh, that is exciting.
We won't be broadcasting the session 0, but which is happening this week. But we will be broadcasting the thing. This stream update that I've been going on about for the last 6 months is actually happening in May. So there you go. It's going to be very exciting.
I suppose that now is as good a time to any to announce that we will be moving our live broadcast over to your channel as well.
Yes, actually, the stream update. One of the things that's happening at the stream update is that I'm taking both the podcasts back off the Bonus Roll Productions channel and back over to twitch.tv/SilkyRaven. This isn't because we've fallen out with Bonus Roll. We love Bonus Roll. We are still part of the network. This is simply because my channel is going to be trying to raise some money for Mermaids, which is an organization in the UK that supports trans young people. And so basically I want to do as much on my channel as possible to raise as much money for Mermaids as possible. So this isn't I'm not throwing shade at Bonus Roll, but from 2 weeks' time, when we are recording, we will be over at twitch.tv/SilkyRaven, along with lots of other content, all World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls and Dungeons and Dragons, perhaps. Sorry, Shanty, I should have asked you how you were doing before I took a sip of my tea then. How's life?
Overall good. Some work stress that I don't really want to get into, but such is life. Actually had time for gaming this week, which that's fantastic when you run a show about gaming. Yeah.
Actually playing some games is really cool. And not something that's featured very much in my life recently. So I need to try and do that. Manny in the chat has just upgraded us to the 20th Divine. So lots of expansion in terms of Divines in ESO coming. You heard it here first. That Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be wild.
Is the higher you go up, the better you are? So 20...
Oh yeah, maybe we could be the 200th Divine.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Well, now I'm just looking at, I wonder when we're going to have an April 1st release.
I mean, we could probably make one up next year.
But as ever, we are not on our own. We are very excited for today's guest, and this will be a little bit of a different conversation than what we usually have. Please welcome Flattus.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I have coffee and I have a seltzer water. That's off to the side. So I will still also be hydrated, but I have the hot and then I have the cold. So the best of both worlds.
Very good. Very good.
So, doesn't sound like you may have been up to much, but I did see you at least logged into ESO earlier. That was nice.
Yeah, so I've what have I done in ESO? So in the last couple of weeks, not huge amounts. I mean, I log in and get my writs done every day. That's still a thing, which is very good. I missed Dungeons this Thursday because I was too busy interviewing Holly Longdale, who's the executive producer of World of Warcraft from my other podcast. So sorry about that. Sorry about that, Lore Seekers. I missed the Dungeon Thursday fun. However, on Saturday a couple of weeks ago, I did do my first trial. I don't think I've discussed that here.
No, you have not.
I think it was after we last recorded. So the Lore Seekers do a casual trial. Anyone can join in on one Saturday a month. And so we went off to Dreadsail Reef. And I took part in my first 12-man content in ESO, which was very exciting. Super good group, lots of people who were super well geared and super experienced and knew what they were doing, so I could just wander around sort of not contributing very much, which was fine, except I was one of the only 2 healers. But there we go, and it was fine. We didn't have too much death. But it was really good to sort of get a feeling for how that endgame content, group content, works in ESO and how it's different from World of Warcraft, which I suspect we might be talking about a little bit later on. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So big shout out to the Lore Seekers for running all of this amazing content for people. And yeah, cool. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Well, let's start in WoW because I've had a little bit of a focus there playing the WoW Command, the battle pets.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been busy collecting.
Nice.
So I'm actually nearly at 600 battle pets collected at this point.
That's too many battle pets.
Only 1,000 to go.
EJ's got so EJ and my co-host from Girls Gone WoW and one of the other people that we used to play with on the same server used to trade off between each other for like who on the server had the most battle pets, and they were up in the 1,500. Well, at the time they were up in the 1,200s, but that was before. It was a few expansions ago, but yeah, they were right up at the cutting edge, and I'm just like, there's too many battle pets. Too many battle pets.
But in ESO, a lot of logging in, getting the writs done, starting to work on my alts horses now because it's a 6-month process and you got to get it done at some point, right?
Go and click those buttons every day. Yeah.
And plus, it's a good way to start scrounging up some gold is having the alts do some writs too. Put the money in the bank, take the money out of the bank on the main.
Yep.
And then working a little bit on Tales of Tribute, which has been horribly neglected these past 4 months or so. So that's getting back into the swing of things on that.
Cool.
Have you played any ESO recently, Flattus?
So the other night I did. It's been a minute, but I did update the game. I was like cracking off the rust, so getting the feel back for it. So at the beginning of this year, I was promoted to a supervisor at my job. So I've been really busy, taking a team that didn't have a good morale. Was one of the reasons they put me in that position is to rebuild the morale of that team. So I've been doing a lot of long nights. Sometimes, last night, I didn't leave work till 7:30 last night. So, and I'm just now being given another team to be their interim supervisor for the same reason. Another supervisor got promoted, so I'm now they're the newcomer. Anybody that gets hired on gets that team first, so they want me to be to the interim until they find a replacement. So it's been a minute, but I adore the game. I am excited. I've been watching a lot of sneaky previews of Arcanist tanking and how that looks. I was like, you mean I have a book and a sword? Great. This is great. I want that. Like that. And I feel bad because now I've neglected my horse, and now that you said it takes 6 months, I'm now sad. If anything, I've extended that process out a little bit. But anytime I've jumped in, so now I'm balancing ESO, World of Warcraft, and Final Fantasy 14. So there's a lot there. But luckily, Final Fantasy 14, I'm the most caught up on. So that's the one I don't have to give too much of my attention to, so I can just jump in and do some things and make sure my house doesn't get demolished. So that's all I have to do over there.
And funny enough, that Final Fantasy 14 is the one out of those 3 that I have the most to catch up on. So
look at us,
kind of the inverse.
So that's what I've been doing. But in game itself, I did check my writs, and I did look, go to my horse and jumped on my warden, make sure my warden was cool, still looking good. And I'm ready. I pre-ordered Necrom. I'm all about old gods. One of my favorite things about World of Warcraft is old gods, and I'm like, old gods. My ears perked up. I was like, I'm sold. Let's go. And then they're like, it's the old god of microfiche. I'm like, I'm there. Let me have this. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty hyped. Pretty hyped for Necrom. I've also purchased the chapter, so I did that this week because I got paid this week. So that's all there, waiting to go. Very excited. Although we do have 10.1 in World of Warcraft before we get to Necrom, so yeah, lots going on at the moment.
I know it's a great time to be an MMO player, honestly. There's a lot of stuff coming.
It's not a great time to be an MMO player who has a really difficult job, though.
You're correct. Now you're right.
All three of us are at least supervisory positions, so yes.
Yeah. This is a bad time to be a company director at a company that's having a really rough time.
It's great if you're in your 20s and in like college or high school.
Yeah, because obviously you wouldn't have like exams or anything in June, so that
it's fine.
Details.
You don't have to raid. You just have to.
Yeah, you don't have to raid.
You don't have to raid.
Yeah, sure.
You just have to go make sure your horse is getting taken care of.
You just have to make sure that your speed and your carrying capacity of your horse are always being improved. Yes,
that's it.
All you have to do. Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so let us go ahead and dive into the interview proper here. How did you discover the Elder Scrolls in general and ESO in particular?
So Elder Scrolls was back in the 360 days of the Xbox life cycle. They're figuring out how to name things. They still haven't figured it out, apparently.
Still haven't
figured it out. So my first iteration was, one of the launch titles, which was Elder Scrolls. So I went the day I bought my Xbox. That's the first game I purchased, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want, and I loved every minute of it. It was such a fun game. It just, the concept of like, you could just go wherever you want, do whatever you want. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, but it was a fantasy game. It wasn't Grand Theft Auto. It wasn't anything like that, where it was like, yes, you can wreak havoc, but it was like a fantasy setting. So it was like, there's dragons and there's this. And I was like, yay. Like, it makes me so happy that I can go romp through this world. And then ESO, so I got into beta for the initial, and I was in the NDA beta first, and then I was in the open, like the hush hush no talk beta, and then I was in the no, you can talk about it beta. And this was the early days of Twitch, so like I was like, look at this game, everybody. Everybody's like, ooh. Yeah. So it had some troubles in the beta. It's just a little bit. And some of those troubles carried over to launch, but it was a game that was on my radar because I like MMOs, and I was just like, oh, let me go for this. I like the Elder Scrolls. I think the Elder Scrolls was a great. The world would have been a great world to MMO in, and I was right. I think it's doing pretty okay. I think they're still around, so they're doing pretty okay for themselves, I think.
Yeah. Are you a one character type player, or do you have a whole bunch of alts?
So I have my Warden and I have my Dragon Knight. My Dragon Knight is, I played Dragon Knight for a little bit. And I was like, oh, and then this is when I first started playing the game, and I was like, I'm going to be a tank. And I was like, Dragon Knight's tank. And I was like, because they have a sword, and that makes sense. And so I was doing Dragon Knight, and then as I was playing the game, I was like, I sword and board in almost all my other games, right? Like WoW, I'm a prot warrior. In Final Fantasy 14, I'm a Dark Knight, so I was just a big blade, and I still tank. But I was like, I want to tank, but I want to do something different. I was like, oh, you can tank on anything. I was like, Warden. So I went the Warden path, and I'm like, I have a bear, and I love it. I love that I have like this, like everything can tank. Now I'm like looking at the Arcanist. I was like, I guess I could roll an Arcanist tank and be like a sword wielding book reader. And I was like, I love that. And so my next class is probably going to be an Arcanist. I just like the concept of it. So I'm gonna go for that next. It's gonna be flavor of the week. So I'm gonna make one just to reserve my name and have it there, and just to have my character. And then I'll go back to my Warden and play through everything, and then I'll forget about the Arcanist for 6 months.
I mean, playing whilst it's flavor of the week is pretty fun, though. Play it whilst it's OP before they nerf it. Like, come on.
That you're absolutely right. I'll roll in there and be like, look how strong I am, and then I'll see me and the other 9,000 Arcanists running around.
For sure. But I have to say, the spell animations and all the spell effects and the visuals on the Arcanist, they are next level, man.
So good.
They look amazing.
So good. Could go back and tweak all the other classes. Go back and give them a little brush up.
Yeah. I want a higher res bear for sure.
Oh,
I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah.
So how? Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a question in the chat room from a seasoned WoW player who's like, tank with a bear? Question mark. Yeah, you have a bear. Like a hunter in WoW has a bear, like as an extra pet. Like, so there is you and there is your bear. And your bear has lots of ultimate abilities. So you press a button and your bear goes, wah! Very exciting.
Yep. It's a good bear.
It's a good bear. I heal on my warden. I heal on my warden, so I don't have bear out when I'm healing on my warden. Because you can, when you're healing your ultimates, you can literally grow a whole forest.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Warden's such a unique class for an MMO.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, Warden's great, for sure.
How did you get into content creation?
Oh boy. All right. Well, strap in. We're going way back. So there was a game that was promised. They were hoping to release EverQuest 3.
Wow.
So way back when I had met a few people online that wanted to start a podcast, so we had created the Evercast show, which was a all EverQuest Next podcast, sort of like people that start podcasts now for things like Ashes of Creation, like way before it's out, you started so you can get the hype going. That was us. We were one of the longest running and forerunners of the show. The good connection to Holly Longdale, who eventually took over as director for EverQuest after the former director left. So I am aware of Holly. She is great. By the way, if you are a WoW player as well, Holly having the game in WoW in her hands, the game's going to do phenomenal. Like Holly's such a great with like speaking to the community and knowing what they want and hearing them. Like great, the game will be fine with Holly at the helm. So no worries there. I digress. So I did that, and then eventually EverQuest Next sadly was canceled, and so we pivoted to we changed the name of the show to Loot Table. We were kind of about all things gaming and talking about mostly MMOs, and then eventually I created my current show in that process as my side show, which is now my main show, which is called Maelstrom Radio, which is a Final Fantasy 14 podcast. So way back when Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn launched, my friend and I were playing it, and then during Heaven's Word, we decided to create a podcast, and we did, and we've been around now for a very long time. And in that process, I have a side WoW podcast called WoW Nightcap, and then I have a little short 15-minute. I'm like the Scott Johnson, the poor man Scott Johnson. I have a lot of podcasts, but nobody's listening to them. And then I have a small form snack review podcast called Soundbites, where I do with my friend Chili.
Nice.
So Loot Table. Yeah, thank you. Loot Table is I still own it. Like I still own the name for Loot Table because it's always something where like I could always bring it back.
Yeah.
But I'm like, do I need another podcast? So it's that is one. I still have all the art for it. It was such a fun show. But I love the shows that we're on that I'm doing now. I love that I get to do a show with my best friend for Final Fantasy 14. I love that my other friend Talon, who's we just had a great discussion about voice acting and the Chat GPT add-on that someone had created, and he went into like almost a 30-minute discussion about like the logistics and why voice actors should be getting paid for voice roles, and like we talked about like the good, the bad. So I content creation, I love doing it. I love talking MMOs. Clearly, and then snacks. I love snacks. Clearly,
I mean, snacks are excellent. Snacks are
so
excellent.
Good.
Yeah,
so good.
is great. Yeah. So you've sort of touched on this a little bit, but could you give us a brief history of your involvement with MMOs and maybe a little bit like why MMOs as opposed to other types of games?
So I started back way yonder in World of Warcraft, and I I started with WoW vanilla, and I was having a lot of fun. I was just rolling around. Didn't know. My eyes were not jaded at the time. The world was new, and I was a little boy in it, and I was having a blast. And it gave me something that I think always kind of seeking, because like I had Xbox Live, so I was a big one of the first time users of I'll pay for an online service and play with other people. That sounds great to me. And Xbox Live service at the time, the 360 service was great. It was very user friendly. It was probably way ahead of anything Sony was offering, definitely ahead of anything Nintendo was offering. But I wanted more, and I knew about, and I loved Blizzard games at the time. I had played through all of StarCraft, Diablo 1, 2, played Diablo 2 online, of course, played Warcraft 3 online, played through all the Warcraft games. So World of Warcraft was like a no-brainer. And I fell in love with that game, and I still, it's through its ups and its downs. I've and I've taken some long breaks, especially during some certain news points. I had to take a step back for a while.
Yeah.
But the reason for MMOs, they're special. There are worlds that I want to see and explore. And I think that if people are passionate about those worlds and the communities come in and want to fill those worlds up, you don't get that experience with many other games.
Yeah.
And I'm all for people that love Call of Duty and Fortnite and other games in that genre of there's a lot of us and there's a community here. I am happy you have that community. I'm happy that you love that game. MMOs just hit different. There's a lot of puzzle solving and world exploration, and there are dungeons and delves, and the 12, you have 12-man rating, 10-man rating. There's passion behind all those things. I mean, you see how much the creators of these worlds care about the game and how much the communities that care about those worlds they live in. And you just don't get that in many other games. To me, the genre as a whole, sadly, it slowed. I would say a lot. And anything that can pump money into it, I will take. So anytime I see a new MMO on Horizon, I'm like, I hope you do well. We need something big to happen to the genre again, so that companies are like, oh, we need to put money back into MMOs, and they deserve more money.
Gaming has definitely moved in a different direction over the last sort of 5-ish years.
It has,
which is a bit of a shame, I think.
It really has. It's a lot of just drop in, drop out, quick hit gaming, which is okay. I get it.
And loads of remasters all of a sudden. Actually, there's one of the things I've noticed this year is all of these remasters of Resident Evil, and so everybody's suddenly playing remasters of games that are 10, 15 years old, and you're like, oh, okay, interesting. Have we just all come back round?
Innovation's hard.
It's really curious to me. And lots of there seems to be, and seems to be happening in TV a lot as well. We're getting sort of and films, getting lots of new film adaptations of things that have been made in the past, or TV adaptations of things that have already happened. And so anniversary, sometimes new games, but anniversary games, like the new Monkey Island game, which is amazing, and it's always great to have another Monkey Island game. Monkey Island is one of the most amazing games ever, and I'm very happy. I played it on my stream, the original one, last year. Always happy to have more Monkey Island games, but it's okay, so we're not doing new things anymore. We're just doing the old things.
I was shocked when they announced the new Monkey Island game. It was a new. I was like, what? We're doing a new. What? I had to stop and look at my phone. I was like, what year is this?
Yeah, exactly. Did I fall through a wormhole? What?
It'll be like if George R.R. Martin ever releases a book. That gap in between the releases is going to be so huge. It's mind blowing.
He got HBO money. He's okay now. He doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't. Need to it. It's fine.
And then From Software got him.
Yeah.
So he's like, man.
So just a quick follow up on your involvement with the MMO genre. What are some of the more niche or unique MMOs you've played?
Richard Garriott's Tabula Rasa is one that I think was super unique and ahead of its time. Sadly closed down. Warhammer Online, I think EA had something really special there, and just didn't give it the love that it deserved. They had such a great IP that they still hold and kind of work with to this day, but they just did not give that game a lot. And that game did something a lot of MMOs rather took from and have iterated on, but not done as well. And some things I would love to still see in MMOs today, like adornments for armor, like Warhammer Online had that, which is so cool. Like I remember having my orc and like getting like a skull of a thing, and you're like, oh, you just put it on your shoulder pad, and like that it gives you a bonus. And I was like, great, I love that. Like I love those things. Right now, I'm looking ahead at the future of MMOs and seeing what's coming out. I know Blue Protocol is something that a lot of people are excited for, and that's going to be a like an anime style MMO. So it's probably going to age really well if it goes well in launch and everything like that. I look at and then True Villain Manny in the chat mentioned Ashes of Creation. I'm watching that one, and something personal to me, I'm watching Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, which is a game that's still currently in development. Co-Carnage, which is a big streamer here on Twitch, just became an investor in the game earlier this year, late last year, earlier this year, fully, and not just like a backer of the game, like fully invested, like as an investment into the game.
Wow.
So okay. So it's an MMO that is being made entirely in Unity, and right now the animations are very rough. So like a lot of people are early judging the game based on the animations and what it looks like right now, which is not something you should do. And they're doing some things that I really like, and like I like innovation. And they're like, hey, what if we took some of the old school that people really liked in exploration and added it to some new school features? And I'm like, yay, I'm here for this. This is what I want. And give me climbing in any game, I will do it. And they have climbing. And they're like, we want people to go back to old zones and like a level 1 zone and be able to climb to some place you couldn't reach before, and then find something that's high level up there. Yeah, and there's so that's what they're doing. They're making the world very explorable and replayable. And you can go back to the level 1 zone and find things that you could do that when you're max level, and find hidden areas. So that's the stuff I'm looking at. Again, but weird games. I mean, I miss a lot of the MMOs that are out there that were out there and just gone and will never return. So, I mean, there's private servers.
We do not encourage private servers
unless they're okayed by them.
Unless they're okayed by the developer. Yeah,
like sure. Project 99 is okayed by Darkpaw Games, which is the creators of EverQuest, so they allow that one. And I believe the creators of City of Heroes, I think they okayed theirs as well.
Yes, if I recall correctly from the massively OP coverage, I believe that theirs is fine.
Mm-hmm. They won't have flying mounts. I can tell you, they're looking at you will have a mount, but you will not have flying mounts. And how they want to do mounts in that game, but you should go watch their stuff. Go watch anything from Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. You'll be truly fascinated. I promise.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so just curiosity, how many of these MMOs have you played like end game content in?
So Warhammer was mostly PvP at the end game. There wasn't really like a raiding thing. So I did the PvP. It was fun. It wasn't bad. I don't think I stuck around long enough just because the game started to go free to play, and that changed. And EA was, no offense to EA, but EA's early days free to play models were not great. I just had to bounce out of that. Tabula Rasa's endgame. Sure. It had something. WoW is, I did play endgame in WoW. I'm an old man now. I'm 38, so I'm just like I can't keep up. Like it's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of time. Which I'm all like, I get it. The problem is that I'm here for good example, ESO's 12-man content. That's probably the perfect amount for me.
Yeah,
like Final Fantasy 14, 8-man content. It's great. Yeah. It's also very it's a lot of practicing. I still think ESO's trials are probably like the perfect pocket of you are not punished like as hard in other MMOs and with the trials, because there's like, oh, you can activate like a hard mode or a harder version by doing like not killing these and doing this, so you can get your feet wet, and then a lot of people are like willing to take you and teach you, and which other MMOs do. I'm not going to disparage any. There's no communities that won't teach people. I know there's groups in World of Warcraft that teach them how to do this raids, and there's groups in Final Fantasy 14, et cetera, et cetera.
It was actually super interesting. Just to come in on that point, it was super interesting doing this trial the other week. So obviously in World of Warcraft you have normal dungeons, then you have heroic dungeons, then you have mythic dungeons, and then raids are like the next level of difficulty up, right? So then it's like, and then we have normal raids, and then we have heroic raids, and then we have mythic raids, and there's some like sort of some cross, like the invention of mythic has sort of smooshed those boundaries a little bit, but the principle is raids are harder than dungeons, and that's always been the case. And that's really not the case in ESO. Like a trial is not harder, is not harder than a vet dungeon, like at all. The level of difficulty in terms of the mob health and there's more mechanic or not more mechanic, like the mechanics are different because it's a larger group of people, but the level difficulty isn't harder. So actually normal Dreadsail Reef was pretty straightforward, and we only had 10 people, and that was totally fine. And because everybody who was in the group, most people were doing vet and hard mode content, and if you want to do that, cool, you can absolutely do that. It's absolutely there for you. But there's not this sort of big barrier of entry to try in terms of difficulty for trial content like there is a bit in raids, and in fact is increasingly, in my humble opinion, getting worse in World of Warcraft. And I say that as somebody who runs a normal World of Warcraft raiding.
You are absolutely right, and not to make this a discussion about WoW, but thankfully they're realizing that and starting to pull away like what add-ons information could pull, because it's a losing battle. And I understand why like a game like Final Fantasy 14 is like, hey, no add-ons, because eventually they'll have to make their content difficult if they're going to constantly battle these add-ons to make it easier for people to do that content. So I get it. I think ESO, again, right in the pocket. Like it's I think ESO's that sleeper hit on content that people don't know about. That's what I think.
Well, one other thing that I find personally appealing about raiding in ESO, the trials, as opposed to WoW or Final Fantasy, is that if somebody does fall to a mechanic, anybody can pick them back up. It doesn't have to be a healer.
Yeah.
So that helps balance out the load and makes things easier in my mind.
It does.
I think that's a valid thing. Yeah,
it really does. And it's hard. Like it's hard balancing endgame. It's never something I want to. I'll be honest. I'll never, if I ever get to work at an MMO company, like any company that makes MMOs, and they put me on their like their content for difficulty or content, their end game rating content, I don't want to turn those knobs. I don't want. I'm not that person. Put me on quest design. I just want to do fun things in the world. Actually, world design, I would love that. Like I want to hide things in the world and let people find it. That's my jam. Like I will do that all day.
Okay, so now I know what to look for if I ever happen to play D&D with you.
Yeah, I will. I love that. I'm the first person to always be like, "Can I check the room for it?" I'm like, "Ooh, there's a hidden lock. Perfect. Let's go."
Yeah, when I don't play clerics, I play rogues specifically for the search checks.
Nice.
But we are going to take a moment to remind you that this show is part of Bonus Roll Productions. You can find our show and lots of other great MMO-focused podcasts, such as Podcast Reborn, Realm Maintenance, and Girls Gone WoW over at bonusroll.gg. You can also visit our merch shop at etsy.com/shop/bonusrollproductions. And if you're in the live chat, this is a nice little sample of what the shirt looks like.
Nice. Nice on brand there. Very good. So we were beginning to kind of stray a little bit into this space, but what do you think are ESO's strengths in the MMO market?
ESO has a lot of base strengths that I think older MMO players would really like. So there's a big world to explore. There is the the world design is really done really well. There's a lot of secrets hiding out in the world, which again is something that EverQuest did. And then you look at early World of Warcraft. It's even, I think World of Warcraft still now to this day does a lot of like hiding things.
Yeah,
absolutely. They just kind of tend to highlight it in a purple thing when you eventually find it. So, purple rock. And there's games that don't do that. Like there's Final Fantasy 14, whose world it's kind of void of content. Like there's world content in the world, but there's not things to go seek and hide. Like, oh, I'm going to go explore this area. There's nothing there. Like it's empty space. And it's kind of sad to see that in a game that's done really well and has a lot of praise behind it. So I think ESO does that really well. Again, I think the things that they do really well is voice acting in their games. I love that everything is mostly voice acted, if not like 99.9% of things in the game are voice acted. And their ability just to have like these classes that are just like, hey, you want to tank on a wizard? Go ahead. Just be a magic caster and you could be a tank. Or hey, you want to be a healer that's this, you can do that. Like you can do that. A necromancer healer? Sure, why not? They're all necromancers just slow healers. That's all.
Yeah.
So that's it. And the ability to like have things in their game like lockpicking and theft and pickpocketing and like having the ability to intimidate people and like or smooth people over and just the amount of flavor and text. It's a Bethesda game that became an MMO, and it did that really well. So it has a lot going for it. Again, it's a game that I think everybody should try. Everybody should just try.
All right, so we can't take the good without the bad. What do you think are some of the weaknesses for ESO?
So I think the biggest one, I think it's the one that people have the hardest hurdle getting over, is the combat system in ESO. I think that one it's a little jarring because it's not super smooth. Like having played New World does their combat, I think, better than how ESO does their combat. I think ESO's I would say it falls in line with somewhere where Guild Wars, but I think Guild Wars does theirs even a little bit better than ESO. So that's like the biggest hurdle. I know they are making improvements and they're looking how to like kind of lean away from this their animation canceling. So you're like trying to switch between your combat skills and like your one swings and try to keep up your DPS and all that. So I know they're trying to pull away from that. And the further they pull away from that, it makes it easier for people to learn, as long as they don't like affect the skill gap for things. That's my biggest thing, is like, don't make people feel weak. And I think when I took a break for a little bit, like when I was playing on the last update where they like tweaked it and they're like, oh, hey, my warden fell, like I was doing great. And then my warden fell really weak after that, like one of the combat updates they did. And I was like, ooh, I don't feel good about this at all. I felt pretty like DPS-y for a tank class. And I was like, I'm hurting. My bear's looking at me like, please help. I'm like, oh, bear, no. So I think that's their biggest weakness, but it's a weakness that they're working on. So it's like, it's not something that they're like not aware of. Like we've if you watch any of their updates, they're aware, they speak to the community about it. So they're aware of it and it's in their scope. Is there anything else? I think that might be it. I hate to say it, like I don't want to cop out on just combat, but like they do things really well. I think it's just a concept of the other thing. All right, I take it back. The other thing is they need to redesign their storefront in the game. I think I think the way it's set up and the way you have to figure out how you get content in that game is wild to me. Like, because you're like, okay, I have this expansion, but then there's like DLCs. They're like, oh, I have to buy the DLCs. Like, what is like? They need to refigure that out. Also, they need to look at their pricing for some things. Like, I get it. Like, you're buy once and you have the game, or you could pay the subscription fee, but it was a little pricey in there. It's a little pricey. It's a little pricey. So I'm just that, but. Other than those things, which I think are minor gripes in the world of like things I've seen broken in other games before.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are, I think, the things I look at. But again, like the combat, once you get a flow for it, it's not bad, I think. But I think I've heard like for my friends and stuff like that, even my partner who tried playing, she's like, I cannot grasp what's going on with it. Like I'm just clicking buttons and I'm hoping I'm killing things in this game. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand. Like
and you see that actually brings up one of what I view as a weakness is the player onboarding experience. Mm-hmm. It'll tell like when you go through the tutorial, it tells you to do something, but it doesn't tell you the why of why you're doing it.
Yep.
Like I brought this up when we visited with Tales of Tamriel last year, but when they tell you to heavy attack in the tutorial, they don't bother to explain that this is going to be the way that you recharge your resources at all. They don't bring it up at all. So like having the why of why you're doing stuff can help out a lot.
I remember the first time I did like I was doing heavy attacks and but I was doing like my normal attacks. I'm like, I'm running out of stuff. And then I did like a heavy attack to hopefully just kill the thing. And I saw my stuff like replenish. So I was like, huh.
Yeah.
No. I was like, wait a minute.
I didn't figure it out for myself. I was streaming some dungeons as a healer, and somebody in the chat room was like, hey, they were so polite. They were like, hey, are you okay if I give you a hint? I don't want to like spoil your immersion or anything. And if you don't want my help, that's absolutely fine. But like, can I just give you a little like tip? And I was like, no, sure. Backseat gaming's cool in my community. Like, that's fine. Don't spoil any story, but you can absolutely. And they were like, yeah, heavy attack resource rebuilding, and I'm healing a dungeon at the time, and I was like, holy shit, how did I not know this? Like, how did I get this far into this game and not understand that this was how this worked? Like, yikes.
No one told us. We were all just sitting there like, help, I'm out of stuff. And then like one heavy attack. And I was like, huh, wait a minute. I'm over there in the fields doing science.
And obviously, like, you come from World of Warcraft, like being is a thing for healers in World of Warcraft. So it didn't even occur to me that it was something that I could fix. I was just like, oh yeah, you use all of your spells and then you run out of your resource. And that's what happens. So you have to be careful with using your resources. No, that's not what happens, Raven. You need to learn how to play the fucking game. It's what needs to happen here. Like, yeah.
But the game didn't tell me how.
The game didn't tell me how.
Also, I forgot to add one thing to the good pile. And I have to say, I have streamed ESO before on the Maelstrom radio channel. And I love the ESO community. Like,
yes.
They are so kind. They are so helpful. Like there's no like your example was great, Raven. Like I just want to give you a quick tip. Like it's not, they never want a backseat game, but I think they are aware, Shanty, that the tutorial's not good. Yeah. And they're just like, hey, the game doesn't tell you this, but
yeah. But this is a like really important thing that you should know about. Yeah, no, I mean, Shanty and I have said many times the ESO community has been so supportive and welcoming, and like the podcast community is really supportive and welcoming. When we started the show, it's really, I mean, it's a much smaller community than the World of Warcraft community. I get that, I understand that, but it is even by that standard, like it's a really great place.
It is. It really is. Like everyone's so kind. Like again, compared to World of Warcraft, where it's got like, well, there's all walks of life there. We're not going to judge people, but there's all walks of life, even in the smaller community, and the fact that everyone, majority of people are like, hey, we just want you to enjoy the game and have fun in it, and like, we want you to help you with your travels through Tamriel. And I'm like, oh, sweet babies, I love you all. Thank you.
So generally speaking, games improve when they look at what the competition is doing and tweak it to fit into their game. What do you think ESO could borrow from the competition at the moment?
Oh boy, all right. Well,
if we're gonna build the perfect MMO, and it's mostly gonna be ESO, what else are we taking?
So I think their dungeon design fits in their world, right? So I don't want to say take the dungeon design of World of Warcraft or the raid design of World of Warcraft, because that is difficult to do. I would love for them to, although I would love for them to explore that, like what does, like what's the next step from a trial, right? Not difficulty, but how can we build something like massive that 12 people can go through. That's a little bit longer, and maybe that the new content with the endless dungeon is that concept, but that seems like very small scale. Like there's not a lot of people, but maybe it's the building blocks to what that could be, and that excites me, right? So I would say look at like WoW's design for things and like, hey, how can we build something grand and big inside this world and have a lot of people do it? Because their outside world content takes up a lot of people, but it's very like just everyone bonk all the things until there's no things left to bonk and get your treasure chest. Yeah. Where I think like if they could do like a 12-man like big thing, I was like, ooh, that excites me. I think they're doing world content really great, so there's nothing there. I think that I would say if anything, look at New World and how they handle their combat system. New World's pretty fluid with their combat. I know that game has a lot of trials and tribulations that it started out with, to say the least. But the one thing I think they did really well is just handled their combat. Like it feels really nice. It flows when you connect things. It feels good. I would say like if they're planning on to continually fix their combat, I think they should look at New World and say, hey, what can we take from this and really smooth out our animations and not have to do animation canceling, and what can we do to make it a little bit easier for people to get in and learn how to do rotations in our game or have freedom in rotations. That's where I would say again, I would say like look it over I know they have to make money. I know every company needs to make money, but again, look at your store. Again, it's just, I know they have a storefront, and now that they're owned by Microsoft. Microsoft does require them to have a way to earn in-game currency to get like certain things. So maybe find a way to do that, or like I know there's like gold trading, and I haven't delved in that world yet. Like I know it's like I will give you gold if you buy this thing off the board for me, and I was like, what a world this game lives on where that's the thing that you can do. It's like, and I rarely see anybody in chat, and maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm just like, maybe I've ignored the chat long enough that I just don't see it. I don't see a lot of gold sellers in that game. Maybe it's just me. Because I don't know, like I know people can just give you gold, I guess, but like because you have to do like a guild system to trade. Maybe that like figure out like but then it ruins the whole. See, then I'm like, well, then it ruins the economy. Like I can't, like there's some things that are so invested. But if they for future content, go ahead.
The trading system, the trading system is one of the things that I'm like. This is just like the auction house system in WoW works really, really well, and I really like it. Especially the current system, the way it's updated, you can buy one of a thing, you can buy a stack of a thing. Like you don't have to worry about stack sizes, all of that kind of stuff. So having a system like that would be great, but it would destroy the economy. It would make my personal life easier, but it would fundamentally break the economy.
It'd break everything they know.
When I type T into my browser, Tamriel Trade Center is the first thing that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, for
most viewed web pages.
Yeah.
I would also say I understand their mount system. I am not a fan. Like why gate it? What's the point? Like it's like just rather okay for space purposes, I guess, but the mount speed is the one that's a little annoying, because then it's like, all right,
I can understand having to do it once, but make it account wide.
Make it account wide.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Make me suffer through once, but once you have like my horse is maxed out, all my horses are maxed out. It's so frustrated to be like, because if you forget it, you're like, okay, I'll just go see the mount person and we'll start this over again. Okay, it's gonna take another day longer. It's fine. Like I just keep moving the goalpost further and further back. Eventually my horse will be great.
I mean, training real horses does take a fair time. I can tell you, training horses, time-consuming business.
Well, I will pay more gold if I could fast track it.
I mean, you can definitely get better horses in real life if you pay more money for them. That is definitely a thing.
Why can't we do this in Tamriel?
Be able to pay the stable master. I'm going to pay you. I mean, you have to pay them anyway, but like I'm going to pay you extra to just do the thing.
Someone from ZeniMax is going to hear this and be like, "Now wait a minute, that's not a we. There's a lot of gold around. We could get some more gold."
Yeah.
Problem is, all the gold people, like all the people that have gold, are been in the game for years. So they're like, all my horses are max. What are you talking?
All of my horses are fully trained. Thank you very much. Yeah.
But me, I'm just like, thank you. right, old Steve. And old Steve's over there. He's like, on the couch eating hay. Just like, thanks.
Yeah.
So I think I know what your answer to this is going to be based on one of your most recent podcasts. But what is something ESO does that you'd like to take and put into another game?
Oh boy, let's see if I remember what I said. So I've already said it. One is the voice acting. I think everything being voice acted would be great for Final Fantasy 14, because Final Fantasy, when it does voice acting, is phenomenal. It's the bits in between where they don't do voice acting it bites, because then you're just like, all right, I gotta read this, and it's fine. I don't mind reading because the story's very compelling, and that's what it's there for, and that's what Final Fantasy really prides itself on, is that story. And they're getting better about trying to voice act as much as possible. I think they could voice act more. Do they have to voice act every single side quest? No, but wouldn't hate it. So I think that's something that I'm glad ZeniMax invested in early on. I'm glad that they still invest in it. They have never veered from that. I know it's not cheap. The fact that they keep pumping money into doing that for every expansion is phenomenal. And still getting and develop, like, voice acting. Again, voice acting is not cheap at all. Like the fact that, again, like just the fact that they're like willing to dish out money. They're not paying AI bots to cover voices for anything. I'm sure they have a bank of like some voices that they reuse for like similar, like, hello, like, you know, I'm like, all right, well, that's fine, but it's voice acted, and when I click on somebody, it's nice. So I think that ultimately, other than that, I think one of the things that ESO does is puzzle, like anything quest that involves like a puzzle and solve it. What happened to MMOs where we're just like, it's just like, go here, kill this, do this, that. All right, like just go here and collect that. Like, what happened to the whimsy and fun of like, oh, go here, like the EverQuest days of like reading some. We don't have to read the text. You can tell me the words via voice acting, but like, hey, there's a rock over here, and like you have to solve this mystery. Like, all right, great, and like I love that. I love when WoW does it. Like, it's very sparse, but when they do it, it's so good. And it's just fun quest design. It's just fun when MMOs have fun in their world. Like, there should be mystery. There should be things that are puzzle solving in a world of RPG and role playing. Like, to me, so that I think more MMOs should do that. It's sad that, again, MMOs are very streamlined and just like, go kill 12 cows. I'm like, I don't want to kill 12 cows. Like, do it anyway if you want this level in the next story bit. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's one of the things I most liked about Elder Scrolls games originally. There's loads of that in Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff. So I'm glad that it made it into ESO, and it is a shame that WoW and other games don't do that, especially since, I mean, Wowhead exists, right? So if you really don't want to sit and like take 5 minutes to be like, oh, what's going on here? You can just go and look it up on Wowhead if that's what you want to do. But if you do want to sit and work it out, then you can.
You can. Or if you're really stumped and you're like, and you even read the instructions gets you, you're just like, all right, I'm going to download an add-on.
Yeah.
Thanks, add-on.
Yeah.
I actually thought you were going to mention the open world content.
Oh,
and the dearth of it in Final Fantasy.
I think that, yes. Final Fantasy, again, I said that, you were correct, and I said it earlier, that Final Fantasy's world is lacking. It has the fate system, right? And it has the kind of like that same system that ESO has, where it's like, oh, there's an event happening in the world. I'm going to go do that event really quick. And it gives you XP, and sometimes it gives you loot, sometimes it just gives you gold and XP. Mostly that's what Final Fantasy does. But if you go through the world of Final Fantasy, there's a lack of like, oh, there's no hidden like there's like, oh, there's a chest over here. There's no chest. There's nothing. Like, you go into a cave, there's no mobs there. It's just underutilized. I know they put it there to build the world out and give something to the world, or they might use it for like one side quest and like to put something in there, and that's it. And it's sad because the world is so big and so beautiful in that game, and it's sad that they're not like, oh, we hidden treasures and we did this. Like, you fill your world with things, just fill it. Like, that's what it's there. Like, there should be mystery and exploration in your game, and it's sad that it's not there. So,
So finally, before we get to our little fun questions, in our big leaderboard, in our big hierarchy of the MMO space, where do you think ESO fits?
I know this. Are we talking like the top 3, top 5?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You don't have to. I'm not going to make you sit here and rank every single MMO you've ever played.
Thank you, because like,
if he was ranking
every MMO, oh, we'd be here all day. We don't have that kind of time.
Well, everyone that you've personally played, that's still over 30, right?
That's over 30 MMOs. Yeah, there were some bads in there. There would be some low ranked MMOs for sure. Some were real money grabs. I would say ESO fits in the top 3. It has every right to be in the top 3. It does everything you could want that an MMO should do. Now, order of top 3, I couldn't tell you. I think they each do something individually that I really love, but within the top 3, and that can shift around and that'll flow for me from day to day. And like, I might love something that I think WoW does that's really interesting. I think WoW's current expansion is probably one of the best expansions they released in a very long time.
Yes.
Right now, Final Fantasy 14 is in a lull, and it's so that's like, well, right now it's number 3. ESO is getting that hype train into the next thing, so it's within the top 3. And again, like, anybody that's on the fence about trying the game, just try it. Just go out and try it. Like, you get a lot of content for the first, like, the little first. When you buy the base game, you get that in the first expansion. It's that's hundreds of hours of content. And so cheap buy-in for a lot of content is not a bad thing, especially if you're like, I'm okay, I have nothing to do in World of Warcraft, because I'm not going to do if you're not going to do the raid in 10.1, you're just going to do the storylines and get your dragon dutes and get your tendies, and that's it, and you're done for the month. Jump into ESO and you'll have a blast. You'll fill your time effectively and efficiently and have a blast doing so. So to me, it's just bang for buck, early buy-in, and just a great game overall. So top 3 for sure.
Awesome. Cool. So now for our fun questions. If you could take one race or species from an urn and just plop them into our reality, which would you choose?
Oh boy. I know Tales of Tamriel will probably be like, well, not the Gwar, but I'm going to say Gwar because
that's specifically Arc. Lotus is all for the Gwar.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I kind of like the idea of, but like a small one, like the ones that you roll around with as a pet.
The Bantu
yeah. They're like tiny, like lizard puppies, and I'm okay with that. I just want to hold one. They seem like tiny dinosaurs. I'm okay with that, like with small T-Rex arms and
yeah.
They're like little meatballs, and I kind of like that.
That's fair. If you were transplanted into Nern, what is the first thing you would do?
Go eat one of those delicious sweet rolls that I like. They're everywhere. There's a whole cult dedicated to them. So why not? Like, I would sign if that's a cult I want to be about. I have a snack podcast, so why not join the cult of like sweet rolls?
Yeah. All right, and finally, why is AD the best faction?
Ooh. Well. Well, when's the next time I'll be on? Are they though? Are they?
You are allowed to disagree with us. It's okay. People do. People do.
I mean, are they?
Who are the best faction in your land?
I personally, I'm a Nord, so Ebonheart Pact is my jam. But I also like, but I'm also like giving me mead. I don't get me wrong. AD probably close second. Probably a very close second on AD.
Well, Razumdar thanks you for the support.
they have Khajiit. Honestly, other than PvP, really. I mean, we all just get along, honestly. At the end of the day. No, do we not? Okay, we do. Okay, good.
No, we do. We do. It's okay. I mean, obviously, the Queen is foremost in the world.
See, and that's why it's in our for fun section and not in the serious questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
All right, but thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you in all of the places they can find you?
All the places? Oh boy. All right. Well, you can find most of my content at twitch.tv/Maelstrom Radio. That's majority where our content is done. That's my baby. You can also find me at WoW Nightcap. We're at WoW Nightcap on Twitter. We're World of Warcraft podcast. We're delightfully the theming is we're two friends in the tavern late night right before last call, and we chat about the game in a very casual way. So and then you can find me on Soundbites if you just want a cool 15-minute podcast about a snack from the US and then a snack from the UK. Although this year on Soundbites, all my snacks are coming from around the world, so I'm making an effort to go get snacks from around the world and review them. So
nice.
Snacks and drinks. Don't discount your content.
That's right, Dad. That's right. Drinks. I do cover drinks as well. That's very true. Okay. So
cool.
Yeah, and again, Maelstrom Radio is my bread and butter, my Final Fantasy 14 podcast. But honestly, we talk a lot about everything, like a lot of other MMOs. So it's the game that it's the podcast that's like it's Final Fantasy 14, but really isn't. so
yeah, I mean, when I visited last year, we talked ESO. So
yeah, we talked ESO. So it's good to have different perspective, I think. So
yeah, for sure.
Again, poor man Scott Johnson. So.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning into the show. If you've enjoyed it, please let other people know and give it a review wherever you are listening to us. Rating and reviewing the show will help other people find it. You can also give us a review over at the Bonus Roll podcast directory. Go to bonusroll.gg/directory to find it. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Twitter at TentDivinePod, or you can email us at tentdivinepodcast@gmail.com.
If you want to find us in other places, you can find me, Raven, over at Girls Gone WoW if you're a World of Warcraft fan, or if tabletop RPGs are more your thing, check out As the Dice Roll, where I'm part of the crew of the Cautious Optimism. You can find me as Silky Raven on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram, and you can also join the GGW Discord at girlsgonewow.net/Discord. There's a channel for ESO chatter and lots of other general gaming chat.
And you can find me, Shanty, on Twitter or Twitch, streaming ESO and other MMOs. Both of these, I am at Shantyman Gaming. I will be diving into Fallout 76 for the first time in May as part of Wes Johnson's Voice-A-Palooza campaign for the Alzheimer's Association. Thank you to the Fallout for Hope team for inviting me back. If blogs are your thing, you can check out my Road to Endgame series on the Bonus Roll website. You can also find me on the Girls Gone WoW Discord, joining in the ESO chatter and gaming chat, and a multitude of other gaming Discords. Feel free to say hello if you happen to see me online. We will be back in a fortnight with another lovely chat about ESO. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.